First up, European countries continue to reopen tourist sites even as the COVID-19 cases continue to surge. And these are developments that have raised several eyebrows across the world. COVID-19 numbers across the European countries have been rising. In fact, thousands of tourists have been flocking to a popular resort town in France. However, the hotels remain occupied by local tourists as the number of international travelers has now dwindled. There are fears of a second wave of infections, but authorities say that the economy must remain open.
Alors c'est vrai qu'il y a beaucoup d'étrangers absents. La seule chose c'est que nous sommes dans un rapport 80-20 ici, c'est-à-dire 80% de clientèle française, 20% de clientèle étrangère. Donc cette clientèle étrangère nous manque, mais par contre la clientèle française est venue en nombre. Donc elle ne compense peut-être pas l'absence de la clientèle étrangère, mais en tout cas elle est très présente.
Meanwhile, Italy, which was one time the epicenter of the coronavirus in Europe, has made wearing masks compulsory in public places. Authorities have asked the people to wear masks when they enter the closed places like restaurants, stores, churches and museums.
In questo periodo, data la situazione che abbiamo vissuto, secondo me è giusto. Forse all'aperto, se appunto ognuno ha un distanziamento sociale giusto, ok, sta bene senza, però al chiuso sì, ci vuole.
However, in Moscow, people were seen flouting the COVID-19 restrictions. Fewer people were seen wearing masks, even as the famous tourist destinations like the St. Petersburg Square remained crowded. Several European nations like Germany began reopening last month. The country has been reporting fewer COVID-19 deaths. Germany currently has nearly 9,200 coronavirus fatalities. And joining us live on the broadcast this minute is the Deutsche Welle correspondent Malt Rauer-Kalman. Thanks very much for speaking with us. Let me begin by asking you, what is the latest from the authorities in terms of the reopening process? There have been reports suggesting that there was a rethink in that direction and perhaps the COVID-19 restrictions could be brought in once again.
Yes, I mean that's the thing. The borders have been opened. People are traveling, and there's a risk to that, to letting people do that. I spoke to a leading epidemiologist here in Germany on this, and he basically said when a pandemic starts, travel is the main thing that spreads the pandemic throughout a continent, throughout the world. But once a pandemic has spread, it's not such a big factor anymore, unless of course you travel to or from regions where there's a high number of infections. But what we can't forget is that travel exposes you to situations where social distancing might be difficult. There are planes, trains, buses that you might have to get on with a lot of other people. And that's, I think, the main problem here that gets people to rethink whether this was a good idea. People go on holidays to relax, and relaxing doesn't really work when you have to social distance, when you have to wear a mask, when you have to constantly think about washing your hands. All these corona rules, people might get a bit more careless about them when on holiday, and that's when it can become risky.
Right. Tourists in several parts, according to reports, Malt, have not been following the COVID-19 norms. What about tourists in Germany? Are they following the basic restrictions or the guidelines that have been put in place when it comes to curbing the spread of the virus?
I would say by and large, yes. So the majority of people are still very much aware that we are in the midst of a global pandemic and that we need to be careful. But in some places, it has been a bit problematic. So across Europe, there are certain destinations that are attracting mainly party tourists. So These are essentially people who want to party for a week or two of their year, drink a lot of alcohol, stay up late, go to bars, go to clubs. And there have been videos from some of these places where people have been kind of disregarding all corona rules. And as a response, some of these places ordered a lockdown of clubs and bars. But the problem here is, this is only a small fraction of tourists, of course, but the problem here is if hotspots form in these places and a lot of people, or just a few people, infect a lot of people, and they all return to their country and take COVID back with them, then we might have a problem. This is actually what we've seen at the beginning of the pandemic, when a lot of skiing tourists infected each other in a small village and then returned to Germany and spread the pandemic here. So this is what people are trying to avoid, potentially by testing people upon return from the holidays.
Right, we're going to leave it there for the moment, Malte. Appreciate very much joining us in the broadcast this minute.